Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow as he maneuvered his salvage vessel through the asteroid field. The debris scanner had been pinging for the last hour, indicating something unusual among the floating rocks. He wasn't expecting much, probably. Just another piece of space junk from the mining operations. But as his ship rounded a massive asteroid, his breath caught in his throat. A sleek vessel unlike anything he'd ever seen lay twisted against the rocky surface. Its hull gleamed with an otherworldly metal that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. Emergency lights flickered weakly along its damaged frame, suggesting someone might still be alive inside. Marcus had been salvaging in this sector for 5 years, or since losing his job at the lunar shipyards. He'd seen plenty of wrecks, but nothing like this. The design was clearly not human, too elegant, too organic in its curves. His heart raced as he realized he might be looking at actual alien technology. Docking carefully alongside the damaged craft, Marcus suited up and prepared his cutting tools. The airlock had been twisted shut by the impact, requiring careful work to avoid depressurizing whatever atmosphere remained inside. As he cut through the final seal, a rush of warm, sweet-smelling air escaped, definitely breathable, but with an exotic quality that made his head spin slightly. Inside the ship was a marvel of engineering. Walls that seemed to pulse with their own inner light, control surfaces that responded to touch with gentle chimes, and corridors that curved in impossible ways. But Marcus's wonder quickly turned to concern when he heard a weak groan echoing. From deeper within the vessel, following the sound, he found her in what appeared to be the command center. She lay unconscious beneath a fallen beam, her form clearly humanoid, but with subtle differences that marked her as definitely not from Earth. Her skin had a faint luminescent quality, and her hair seemed to catch and reflect light like spun starlight. Most striking were the intricate tattoos that spiraled along her arms, not ink, but patterns that actually glowed with soft bioluminescence. Marcus worked quickly to free her from the debris, his hands trembling slightly as he lifted her surprisingly light form. She was wearing some kind of form-fitting suit that had protected her from the worst of the impact. But he could see she had several injuries that needed immediate attention as he carried her back to his ship. She stirred in his arms, her eyes fluttering open. They were unlike anything he'd ever seen, deep violet with flecks of silver that seemed to swirl like tiny galaxies. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, two beings from different worlds connected by this strange twist of fate. "Please," she whispered in accented but clear English, her voice like distant music. "They cannot find me here." Before Marcus could ask who they were, she slipped back into unconsciousness. As he settled her into his ship's medical bay, he couldn't shake the feeling that his simple life as a salvager had just become infinitely more complicated. The way she'd looked at him with such desperate hope mixed with fear stirred something protective deep in his chest. Little did he know that this mysterious woman would soon turn understanding of the universe upside down, secrets revealed. Under Starla 3 days had passed since Marcus brought the mysterious woman aboard his ship. She'd been unconscious most of that time, her body healing from the crash with a speed that amazed him. He'd done what he could with his limited medical supplies. But her physiology was unlike anything in his databases when she finally woke fully. Marcus was in the middle of repairing a component from her ship. The alien technology was fascinating, circuits that seemed to grow rather than being manufactured, and power sources that hummed with an energy he couldn't identify. "You should not be touching that," came her voice from behind him. Stronger now, but still carrying that musical quality that made his pulse quicken. Marcus turned to find her standing in the doorway of his workshop, moving gingerly but under her own power. She'd changed out of her damaged suit into some of his spare clothes, simple shirt and pants that somehow looked elegant on her frame. "Sorry," he said, setting down his tools. "I was just trying to understand how it works. I've never seen technology like this." She approached slowly, studying his makeshift repairs. To his surprise, a small smile played at the corners of her lips. "You have done well for someone unfamiliar with crystalline matrix engineering." "My name is Zara." "Marcus," he replied, extending his hand. When she took it, he felt a strange tingling sensation, as if her touch carried some kind of energy. "I'm guessing you're not from around here?" Zara's smile faded, and she moved to the viewport, staring out at the vast expanse of space.
Ow.
No, I am from a star system your people have not yet discovered. My world is called Nethes, and until recently I was. She paused as if weighing. How much to reveal? It's okay, Marcus said gently, moving to stand beside her. You don't have to tell me anything you're not comfortable sharing. Something in his tone must have convinced her, because she turned to face him fully. I was the crown princess of Nethes. My father ruled over a confederation of worlds, maintaining peace for 3 generations, where there are those who believe. Our ways are too... progressive. They staged a coup, killed my father, and now hunt me across the stars. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. A princess. He'd been sharing his small ship with actual royalty, and he'd been treating her like any other crash survivor. I'm sorry about your father, he said quietly. Zara nodded, her luminescent tattoos dimming slightly with her sadness. He was a good man. He believed that all sentient beings, regardless of their origin, deserved respect and freedom. The rebels. Think differently. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching Earth's moon rise over the horizon of a nearby asteroid. Marcus found himself studying her profile, the graceful curve of her neck, the way her strange, beautiful eyes reflected the starlight. Why did you learn our language? He asked eventually. My father insisted I study many cultures, said that one day we might need allies among the younger species. She turned to look at him. Perhaps he was wiser than even he knew. Something shifted in the air between them. Marcus felt drawn to her in a way that went beyond mere attraction. There was a connection forming. Something deeper and more profound than he'd ever experienced. Zara, he said softly, reaching out to touch one of the glowing patterns on her arm. These markings, what are they? She shivered slightly under his touch. They are... how do you say? A mark of my lineage. But also something more personal. They respond to strong emotions, as if to prove her point. The tattoos pulsed brighter under his fingertips. Marcus felt his heart racing as he realized what that meant. She was feeling the same pull he was, the same impossible connection between. 2 beings who should have been strangers. We should get some rest, she said, but made no move to pull away from his touch. Instead, Marcus stepped closer, drawn by an invisible force. Zara, he whispered, and then, throwing caution to the stars, he leaned down and kissed her. The hunt-against kiss lasted only a moment, but it changed everything between them. When they broke apart, Zara's tattoos were glowing so brightly they illuminated the entire workshop. Her eyes were wide with surprise and something deeper, a longing that matched his own. Marcus, she whispered, her hands resting against his chest. This is dangerous, for both of us. Before he could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout his ship. Marcus rushed to the control console, his heart sinking as he read the scanner displays. 3 ships had just dropped out of hyperspace nearby, sleek vessels with a design similar to Zara's crashed ship, but darker, more aggressive. They found me, Zara said, her voice heavy with resignation. I should never have stayed so long. Marcus watched as the enemy ships began scanning the asteroid field systematically. It would only be minutes before they detected his vessels. Energy signature. Who are they exactly? The Shadow Fleet, Zara replied, moving to stand beside him at the controls. Elite hunters in service to the usurpers who killed my father. They will not stop until they have me. One of the enemy vessels had broken off from the group and was heading in their direction. Marcus made a split-second decision that would change his life forever. Instead of powering down and hoping they'd pass by, he fired up his ship's engines. What are you doing? Zara asked in alarm. Getting us out of here, Marcus replied, his hands flying over the controls. Hold on to something. His salvage ship wasn't built for combat or speed, but Marcus had made modifications over the years. Hidden thrusters gave them extra acceleration, and the hull had been reinforced for the dangerous work of asteroid salvage. As they pulled away from the asteroid field, the Shadow Fleet immediately gave chase. Plasma bolts flashed past their viewport as Marcus pushed his ship to its limits. He'd grown up racing speeders through the canyons of Mars, and those skills served him well as he weaved through the enemy fire. Marcus, Zara said urgently, "You do not understand. They will kill you just for helping me. You should surrender me to them and save yourself." He glanced at her, seeing the pain in her eyes at the thought of sacrificing herself for his safety. "Not happening, Your Highness. We're in this together now." The pet name made her luminescent markings flicker, and despite their desperate situation, Marcus felt a thrill at her reaction. They were approaching the edge of the solar system now, but the Shadow Fleet was gaining ground. His ship simply wasn't fast enough to outrun military vessels. "There," Zara said, pointing to a display showing ship schematics. "The crystalline matrix from my ship, if you can integrate it with your power core, it will give us the speed we need." "That's incredibly dangerous," Marcus replied, but he was already calculating the modifications needed. "One wrong connection, and we could blow ourselves to atoms." "Then do not make a wrong connection," Zara said with a smile that was part fear, part absolute trust in his abilities, working together. They managed to install the alien power source while dodging increasingly accurate enemy fire. Marcus felt the ship transform around them as the new energy flowed through its systems. Displays he'd never seen before came online, and the very walls seemed to hum with newfound power. "Now," Zara said, her hands joining his on the controls. "Engage the matrix drive." The sensation was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Reality seemed to fold around them as they slipped into a form of faster-than-light travel he'd only dreamed about. The Shadow Fleet fell away behind them, unable to match their impossible velocity. As they hurtled through hyperspace, Marcus found himself laughing with exhilaration and relief. They'd done it. They'd actually escaped from alien warships using technology he barely understood. "Where to now?" he asked, suddenly realizing they were no longer in Earth space. Zara moved closer. To him, her hand covering his on the controls. "There is a place," she said softly. "Hidden world where my people's allies gather. But Marcus, ... She turned to face him fully. "Once we go there, there will be no going back to your simple life. You will be part of this war, part of my world." Marcus looked into her incredible eyes, seeing his own future reflected there. He thought of his lonely existence as a salvager, then compared it to the adventure and connection he'd found with this amazing woman. "Then let's go start our new life," he said, and kissed her again as their ship raced toward the unknown. Hearts in hyperspaceth, journey through hyperspace gave them time to truly know each other. Marcus's ship, enhanced by Zara's alien technology, became their private world among the stars. Days blended into nights as they traveled toward the hidden rebel base, but neither seemed to mind the extended voyage. Marcus taught Zara about human culture, sharing stories of his childhood on Mars and his dreams of exploring the galaxy. In return, she painted vivid pictures of her homeworld with its floating crystal cities and aurora-filled skies. They discovered they both loved music, though her songs were in harmonics that human ears could barely perceive. "Sing for me, Marcus," asked one evening as they shared a meal in the ship's small galley. Zara's cheeks took on a faint luminescent blush. "My people believe that to sing for someone is to share your soul with them." "Then I'm honored," Marcus replied, reaching across. To take her hand, her song was hauntingly beautiful, filling the ship with crystalline notes that seemed to resonate in his very bones. As she sang, her tattoos pulsed in rhythm with the melody, creating patterns of light that danced across the walls. Marcus felt tears gathering in his eyes, not from sadness, but from the pure emotional intensity of the moment. When the song ended, they sat in silence, hands intertwined, both feeling the weight of what they'd shared. Slowly, as if drawn by invisible forces, they leaned toward each other. This kiss was different from their first, deeper, more passionate. It's filled with days of growing affection and trust. Zara's single quote's luminescent markings blazed brilliantly as Marcus's hands tangled in her starlight hair. She pulled him closer, her own hands exploring the planes of his chest through his shirt. They broke apart only when the need for air became overwhelming, both breathing heavily. "Marcus," she whispered against his lips, I have never felt this way before. Among my people, royal marriages are arranged for political advantage. I never believed I could feel such connection with someone. Then we'll make our own rules, he replied, kissing the glowing patterns along her throat. No politics, no arrangements. Just us. They made love for the first time that night, their bodies discovering each other with wonder and tenderness. Zara's skin seemed to emit a soft radiance that illuminated their intimate moments, and Marcus marveled at how perfectly she fit in his arms. Afterward, as they lay entwined in his small bunk, she traced patterns on his chest that matched the luminescent designs on her own body. In my culture, she murmured sleepily, lovers exchange light bonds when they commit to each other completely. But you do not have the biological capability for such a connection. Marcus tilted her chin up. To look at him, then we'll find another way. Maybe love doesn't need biology to be real. As if responding to his words, Zara's tattoos pulsed once, brightly, and for just a moment. Marcus swore he could feel an echo of her emotions flowing through him: love, contentment, and a fierce protective instinct that mirrored his own feelings. Their peaceful interlude was shattered the next day when proximity alarms woke them from sleep. Marcus rushed to the controls to find 3 Shadow Fleet vessels emerging from hyperspace directly ahead of them. Somehow the enemy had anticipated their destination and set a trap. They know about the safe haven, Zara said grimly, studying the tactical display. We must warn the others. But as Marcus began evasive maneuvers, one of the enemy ships scored a direct hit on their engine core. The enhanced power system Zara had helped him install began overloading, filling the ship with acrid smoke and the whine of failing generators. We're losing power, Marcus called out, fighting to maintain control as another plasma bolt rocked the ship. The crystalline matrix is destabilizing. Zara moved to the engineering station, her hands dancing over alien controls that had merged with his ship's systems. I can stabilize it, but someone needs to manually reroute power from the backup systems. Marcus looked at the engineering schematics and felt his heart sink. The backup power core was located in a section of the ship that would be flooded with radiation once the rerouting began. Whoever went in there would be exposed to lethal levels of energy. I'll go, he said, but Zara caught his arm. No, she said firmly. My physiology can withstand the radiation better than yours. I have to do this. Before he could protest, she kissed him fiercely. If something happens to me, know that these have been the happiest days of my life. Then she was gone, disappearing into the ship's maintenance passages as enemy fire continued to rock their vessel. Marcus could only watch the radiation monitors and pray to every deity he'd ever heard of as the levels climbed to deadly heights when Zara finally emerged. She was pale and shaking but alive. The ship's power had stabilized just enough for them to make one final jump to hyperspace, leaving their pursuers behind in a burst of light as Marcus held her trembling form against him. He realized that what he felt for this brave alien princess went far beyond mere attraction. He was completely, irrevocably in love with her. Love Conquers Kingdom's hidden rebel base was a marvel of engineering, a massive space station concealed within a nebula, its corridors filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. Marcus had never imagined such diversity existed in the galaxy. But Zara moved among the various species like she'd known them all her life. Princess, tall crystalline being approached them as they disembarked. We feared you were lost when your ship was destroyed at Gathi's Prime. Commander Velix, Zara replied formally, though Marcus noticed her hand seeking his for comfort. I survived, thanks to my companion Marcus. What is the status of the rebellion? The briefing that followed was sobering. The Shadow Fleet had consolidated control over most of Zara's former kingdom, ruling through fear and oppression. But there was hope. Many worlds remained loyal to her father's memory and would rally to her banner. She could retake the throne. The key is the capital world of Nethys itself, Commander Velix explained, holographic star charts floating between them. The usurpers have fortified it heavily, but if we could somehow infiltrate the royal palace... The crown room, Zara said suddenly, her eyes lighting up with possibility. There are passages known only to the royal family. If we could get a small team inside. Over the following weeks, they planned their desperate gambit. Marcus threw himself into studying alien military technology, determined to contribute more than just his skills as a mechanic. Zara worked tirelessly to coordinate with sympathetic forces throughout the kingdom, using encrypted communications to avoid detection. During the quiet moments between planning sessions, their relationship deepened further. Marcus had moved into Zara's quarters, and they'd fallen into an easy domestic rhythm that felt natural despite their different origins. Sometimes he'd catch her watching him with an expression of such tender love that it took his breath away. "What are you thinking about?" he asked one evening as they stood together on the observation deck, watching the nebulous colors shift around them. "I am thinking about what comes after," she replied, leaning against his side. "When we retake my throne, I will have to marry eventually, to secure alliances, produce heirs. It is expected of royalty." Marcus felt his heart clench, but forced himself to keep his voice steady. "And what do you want?" Zara turned in his arms, her luminescent tattoos pulsing with emotion. "I want to marry the man who saved me from that asteroid field. The man who gave up his simple life to help a stranger. The man I love more than all the stars in the galaxy." "Even though I'm just a human mechanic?" Marcus asked, hardly daring to believe what he was hearing. "Because you are a human mechanic," she replied, rising on her toes to kiss him. "You see solutions where others see only problems. You treat everyone with respect regardless of their species or status. We're exactly what my people need in a leader." The attack on Nethes came 3 days later. Their small fleet, enhanced with Marcus's modifications, slipped through the planet's defenses using stealth technology he'd helped develop. While the main force engaged the Shadow Fleet in orbit, Marcus and Zara led a commando team through the ancient passages beneath the royal palace. Fighting through the usurper's guards was intense and dangerous. But Marcus found himself adapting to alien weapons with surprising ease. Having Zara by his side, her movements fluid and deadly in combat armor, gave him strength he didn't know he possessed. When they finally reached the throne room, they found the leader of the rebellion waiting for them, a cruel-faced alien, wearing a corrupted version of the royal crown. "So the lost princess returns?" he sneered, surrounded by his elite guard. "You are too late. The old ways are dead." "No," Zara replied, standing tall and proud beside Marcus. "They live on in the hearts of all who believe in freedom and justice." Final battle was fierce but brief. When the last of the enemy fell, Zara walked slowly to the ancient throne of her ancestors. Marcus stayed back, knowing this moment belonged to her people, but she gestured for him to join her. "A queen needs her king," she said simply. And the assembled rebels erupted in cheers their wedding ceremony. 3 months later, blended human and alien traditions in ways that had never been attempted before. Marcus wore robes of traditional Netherian silk while Zara's dress incorporated elements from dozens of worlds throughout her kingdom. When they exchanged vows, her luminescent tattoos blazed with such intensity that the entire cathedral was bathed in warm, a loving light. As they kissed to seal their union, Marcus felt that strange echo of her emotions he'd experienced in hyperspace. But stronger now, permanent bond that would connect their hearts across any distance. Looking out over their subjects, humans, aliens, and hybrid beings all united in celebration, Marcus knew that his simple life as a salvager was truly over. In its place was something far more extraordinary, a love that had bridged worlds in a future, full of infinite possibilities among the stars.